You're listening to the Wordslinger Podcast, episode 91, Sci-Fi legend Larry Niven. You heard that right.
Writing a book. It can be the best way to build or grow your business, or to simply tell the story that you wish to tell. Learn how to write your book in 30 days or less. Pick up 30-day Author today from Amazon, Apple iBooks, or other online retailers.
It's the Wordslinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented pants optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger.
Wordslinger.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordslinger. Thank you so much for tuning in again for another Wordslinger podcast episode, and this one is wicked awesome cool. And I don't even use terms like that. So here's the deal. I recently decided, you know what, I study entrepreneurs, I study authors, I study the things that, the people and the things that will help me grow in the ways I want to grow. And then I present those stories here on the Wordslinger podcast so that you can do the same, so that you have inspiration, you have something that tells you, how to reach the goals that you have for your life and your career. And so I got to thinking a while back, a week or so ago, there are people out there who are living a lifestyle I want to live, who are doing the kind of work I want to do. And so I thought to myself, how do I learn how those people do what they do? And one of the things that I started doing was watching and listening to and reading interviews with famous authors, going way back, as far as I can get them, really. But any author who's accomplished the sort of level of success that I want to accomplish in my own writing career, I went back and I started studying them. And this is something I've done my whole life, honestly. Anytime I've become interested in something, I immerse myself in it. But for some reason, I never got around to doing this with authors. I mean, I've read a lot of biographies about entrepreneurs, especially in the tech industry, and I've learned a lot from these things, and you really can. And I recommend, by the way, that you pick up biographies about all sorts of people, because you will learn so many things that are applicable to your career and life that you probably didn't expect. So I do recommend that. But I never got around to just doing that with authors, and not just any authors, but the authors I read, the authors that, were influences on my career and helped me shape the way I write. So it's very important to me now to go back and look at these guys and gals. There are some female authors I respect and admire as well. J.K. Rowling, for example, is just one, but these authors who have achieved a level of success that I want to achieve with my own career are invaluable. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great to talk to these people? And then I thought, don't I have a show where I interview people? And it was kind of like a little light bulb moment. So that's what I did. I started approaching some of the people I'm connected to. And believe it or not, I'm connected to today's guest, Larry Niven, who is a sci-fi legend. I mean, he's incredible. I mean, the volume of work he's produced, and and I hadn't quite thought of this before I started talking to him, but he's done a lot of co-authoring, and for some reason I sort of tend to forget there's a co-author on some of the titles of his books, but there they are, and so I wanted to talk to him about that. I wanted to talk to him about how he got into this, some of his process, how does he do what he does, and I was not disappointed. It was a very good interview, which you're going to hear in just a moment. So thank you so much for tuning into this. Now, if you would like to help support this show, here's what I ask. This is really the big ask. I would like for you to go and rate and review the show on iTunes. Just anytime you're ready, go over to iTunes. I don't know if you can do this from your phone. I don't know why, but I don't think you can. But you can go and find the show on iTunes and on your computer, and there's a little tab, rate and review, I think it's called. Oh, that was my dog. That was Minnie. But you can click on that and leave me I like 4 and 5 star reviews. Those are very helpful. and I like seeing what people write about the show. And if you do that, I get a little notification eventually. It doesn't come right away, I've noticed, but I get a little notification, and I'll read that on the show. So here's your chance for 15 minutes of fame, and here's your chance to be on the Word Slinger podcast. And I would really appreciate that. It helps the show to be discoverable by new audience members, new listeners, who can also grow and help figure out how to manage their lives and careers based on the people that I talk to. So there you go. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this interview with Larry Niven because I don't want to hold out on you. You're really going to enjoy this, and I'll see you afterwards with a quick wrap up. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. And today I've actually got a guest. I'm just incredibly, we'll just say stupid excited about talking to this gentleman. He is a personal hero of mine, really. One of the people who introduced me to worlds of fiction. I'm talking to author Larry Niven, and he is an incredible writer of science fiction and fantasy for more than 52 years now, which is longer than I've been alive, Larry. So I'm very impressed with your body of work. So welcome to the show.
Thank you again.
No problem. And and one thing I haven't mentioned yet is you're a multiple Hugo and Nebula Award winner, which is one of those sort of bucket list things that I aspire to as an author. I don't know that I'll get there anytime soon, but it's impressive.
Yeah, when I began this work, the limit of my ambitions was to win a Hugo Award.
Really? And
yeah.
And you did that. How long did it take to win the Hugo?
About 3 years.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're still way ahead of me. I've been doing this for a lot longer than 3 years. So, I can I'll put something else on my list that'll make me feel better later. So, you're one of your best known works is Ringworld, which was what I was introduced to, and a friend of mine actually introduced me to it years ago. It was one of the first times I encountered ideas like Dyson spheres and things like that. So it was very cool. I'm mostly curious about your career in general, but I wanted to start with that work because it's the one I know best. What was sort of the inspiration behind that? How'd you get to that?
Well, it was a Dyson sphere.
Okay.
It was the concept of a Dyson sphere in bastard form. The real Dyson sphere, Dyson's idea was that a developing civilization that is successful will eventually block out all of the sunlight from its sun for industrial purposes and living, and radiate it at a lower temperature. So Dyson spheres, their main point is that they can be found with a telescope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, the immediate science fiction version was a ping pong ball 93 million miles in radius that's been terraformed on the inside.
Yeah.
I started with that and decided I could improve it and make it cheaper.
Yeah, it's that whole idea is very cool, and we've had, I guess recently there were sort of, I don't know, there was a hint that I think that's what they were looking for, actually, Larry, was these announcements in the news about finding a mega structure around a star.
Yes.
I suspect they were thinking of you, actually.
In fact, I'm fishing in my head for a name, and it's not always easy. Colbert.
Yes.
Stephen Colbert
yes.
Was talking to Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
And he said they found the ring world, and he held up a picture he got off the computers.
Right. So were you watching live when that happened?
I was. My wife and I.
That's fantastic. I don't know what I would do, especially if Stephen Colbert mentioned something I'd created on air. I'm not certain how I would react to that.
Oh, my reaction was to send him a recent copy with an autograph.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, okay.
I haven't had any further contact.
I think he may have made out better in that deal. So, okay, I just love the fact that you pulled from something, an actual, I mean, it's theoretical science, but I mean, you pulled from something and made it your own, essentially. I mean, when it comes to like research for your work, I mean, how do you conduct that?
I do my research for fun and hope it will generate stories.
Yeah, I can see that. How often does it happen?
Pretty often. There's a guy out there generating a anthology of stories about the recent solar system, the recent versions of the solar system.
Yeah.
And he gave me Pluto.
Okay.
So I've been tracking Pluto, and there are some wonderful images there.
Yeah.
So I've written him a story if he can sell his anthology, and if he can't, I'll sell it elsewhere.
Okay, so I got to know. I'm going to consider this the definitive answer, by the way. But is it a planet or a planetoid?
As far as I'm concerned, it qualifies as a dwarf planet.
There you go. All right.
I don't invent these things; I use them.
Right. But see, now that you've said it, that's where I'm going to point from now on, because I've gotten into this argument with people, and I guess maybe I'm still holding on to, grammar school, and I'm memorizing the planets by that little rhyme and everything, and I can't let it go.
Like bigger objects, it's a miniature solar system.
Right. Yeah. So
I've been thinking of Jupiter as a miniature solar system.
That's what I always thought too.
All along.
Yeah, so you're finding this out about Pluto as well? Does it have a ring?
Pluto has 5 moons.
Okay.
And Pluto's biggest moon is almost as big as Pluto on the scales we use.
Yeah.
And they are big enough, close enough to be tidally locked.
Okay.
So one faces the other, and it's you know what a beanstalk is, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
A beanstalk, you could run a beanstalk between these two planets and anchor them at both ends.
Oh,
You'd
really?
have to have some flex to it, quite a lot of flex, in fact. But you could do that, and I've written a story about that one already.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's okay. I want to see this now. Actually, that's an interesting concept, but I'm going to go off on a tangent if I start thinking about that. So, you've been doing this for, like I said, longer than I've been alive. 52 years, you said. So I'm curious, like, how did this start? Like, why science fiction, first of all?
It was science fiction because I was reading science fiction.
Okay.
I'm a science fiction fan from before I was writing.
Right. Who were some of the inspirations there? Like some of the people you were looking at?
Poul Anderson, Jack Vance, Hal Clement, Robert Heinlein, Arthur
all
C. Clarke.
the greats.
Yeah, all of the greats.
So
I've tried to copy all of the greats.
Yeah, and copy. I mean, how much
Copy
imitation?
and then extend.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't write a story about someone else's stuff unless I can add to it.
Right. Were you trying to kind of mimic their style at all when you first started, or was it?
Sure.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first met Randall Garrett, he told me I had adopted his solar system, and he was right. The belt started with Randall Garrett's concepts under a pseudonym.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I hadn't known that because he'd used a pseudonym, of course. And of course, I complimented him rather than apologizing.
Right. Yeah. You never apologize for that.
Always think of it as an homage rather than outright theft.
Right.
It's easier on your soul. I've had a lot of homages over the years.
Yeah, there are a lot of people, I think, paying you homage, I think.
Yeah.
So you're still very active in this. You produce an immense body of work. I'm very impressed because I do this, and it takes me not as much time as some authors to crank out a book, but I don't have nearly the volume of work that you have.
It's not the biggest volume. Robert Silverberg has enormously more.
Yeah, but he's a mutant. I'm not entirely sure how that guy. He's got skills, and I think he's constantly. I don't think he ever stops writing. I think one day they're just going to find him keeled over.
I'm sure that's true of most of us.
Yeah.
Why would a writer stop writing?
Exactly.
It'd be like he'd have to stop daydreaming.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I know a lot of authors now, and I think I don't know one of them that's saying, one day I'm just going to do this until I'm ready to retire from it.
Yeah, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to be found in the middle of 2 novels.
The most valuable 2 novels of all time. So that brings up, your recently published book is The Seascape Tattoo, which you co-authored with Stephen Barnes.
Yes, working with Stephen Barnes. I love working with Stephen Barnes.
Yeah, you've gotten quite a few books together.
Yeah. Well, Steve wanted to write a swords and sorcery novel.
Yeah.
And we did that.
And that's a little. You've written other fantasy works, but I don't know you primarily for fantasy. But how do you make the mental shift there from science fiction to fantasy?
My longer fantasy works generally they generally fit the universe in which magic is a non-renewable resource.
Oh.
That way, the older a myth is, the more powerful the magic is. Okay. And the younger a myth is, the more it converges on our current world.
Yeah. That's a concept I sort of borrowed in my Sawyer Jackson books. Not directly, but there is that idea there. So I'm already paying you homage.
Yes.
So you're as far as like co-authoring, and Stephen isn't the first person you've co-authored with. How do you manage that? You've got a lot of partners, actually.
I found I liked it.
Really?
My first collaboration was with David Gerald.
Yeah.
For a novel called The Flying Sorcerers.
Mm-hmm. And
I enjoyed that very much. And then Jerry Pournelle suggested a collaboration, and it sounded good to me, so we went with that.
Yeah.
Was that about 3 years on this? I expected it to go faster.
It seems
David Gerald writes like a jackrabbit.
Yeah, I have trouble. I have a couple of co-authors, one in particular, and I have a hard time. Like it's not easy for me to co-write something. I tend to want to take over.
Some people shouldn't co-author.
Yeah.
Their visions are too personal.
Yeah.
And Terry Pratchett and I spent one afternoon talking about co-authoring a book.
Yeah.
And I guess we both realized he writes too fast. He'd outrun me.
Yeah. I've seen that. Pratchett had a reputation for being kind of tough to work with. Did you find that?
I did not, but then I didn't work with him.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We just spent an afternoon talking.
Yeah. How do you decide on who you will collaborate with?
Very carefully. You don't want to invest a lot of time working with somebody you can't work with.
Yeah.
You should be able to find out pretty rapidly whether you're suited to that.
Right. Yeah. I've become very choosy. When I first kind of got started, I was willing to work with just about anybody because I was just kind of casting about trying to find, really a community, honestly. And then it kind of became when the work started, that's when things got rough because I don't play well with others, I think, when it comes to co-authoring. Like, how do you handle the actual work? Like, I never could quite find the balance.
It's different with every collaboration.
Yeah.
With Jerry, we started out as equals, and we'd assign each other segments according to our skills. We pretty rapidly learned what our skills, what our individual skills were.
Yeah.
I do far out science. He knows the science better and can't stretch as far. Mm-hmm. He knows military. He knows politics. I know aliens.
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
So you just played at each other's strengths.
With Stephen came in as a sort of a student, and the first thing we did was a short version, not a novel, a novelet.
Okay.
And we learned, and I taught him what I taught him what I could, I guess.
Yeah.
And told him at some point he's learned everything he can, and from now on we're just doing this for fun.
Yeah.
And he went with that.
And he's got work of his own too, not just he's co-authoring.
Yes, he's currently I think about to leave for the Bahamas with his wife and son on a writing trip, and I don't know the details. It might be her doing the writing. She's Tananarive Due.
Yeah.
The horror story writer.
Oh, okay. That's something I have not even aspired to, is to leave for the Bahamas to do my writing.
Yeah, I haven't had that privilege either.
So what is the sort of, everyone's always fascinated by the behind the scenes for the writer, and it's usually very boring, but we're going to look at it anyway. I would love to know what your whole writing environment is like and what your method is like.
It's boring because I'm sitting alone at a computer making things up.
It's boring to everyone but you.
Yeah. Well, I don't have somebody at my shoulder.
Yeah.
I have written that way, though. Near the end of a novel, Jerry and I were able to work in the same room for a little while on A Mote in God's Eye, and trade off.
Yeah. How'd that work out?
With David Gerald, we did a lot of that.
Do you find that a comfortable experience?
I found it hilarious. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I can imagine. A couple, authors, we kind of cut up, and that's why we tend to write alone, I think, because we don't, if we get other people around, we're going to cut up.
When you collaborate, the right attitude counts, and the right attitude is you're showing off for each other. Mm-hmm. Come up with something that the other guy likes.
Yeah. So was it just sort of you spend some time at the keyboard and then hand him what you wrote, or how did that work?
Well, superbly.
Okay.
My collaborator taught me to say that.
Excellent.
The idea with David was we're just having fun.
Yeah.
The idea with Jerry is we're trying to produce the novel we wanted to write when we were 12 years old.
Yeah.
And with other collaborations, Brenda Cooper and I worked at first on a few short stories because she'd shown them to me and I could see ways they could be improved.
Yeah.
And we kept talking until suddenly I was a collaborator.
Okay.
So we did several of those, and then we did a novel. Let's see, who else have I worked with? Fred Lerner came to me wanting to write in known space, and he had interesting ideas to the extent that I said, we'll go for it. And we produced 5 volumes that way.
So he approached you about writing in your property, and you
in fact, all of my collaborators, most of my collaborators have approached me.
Oh.
Jerry Pournelle tracked me down, and Stephen did it a little more forthrightly. He tells me he went looking for somebody who could help him write.
Yeah.
Found me in the literature. Found I went to Lossless.
Yeah.
Bought a bunch of my books with the intent of seeing to it that he would be able to say, "I love your work," and read until he could.
Yeah.
And then found me at the Lossless.
See.
And we did the easiest thing in the world for a collaboration. I took a story I'd given up on and asked if he could do anything with it, and he finished it.
That's handy.
Yeah. We lost a Hugo Award over that one.
You lost a Hugo Award? Why
yeah, I watched him lose his first Hugo Award.
Oh.
For a short story called The Locusts.
Yeah. Oh, I never know how to respond to that because just being nominated for a Hugo Award is pretty much, I would take
that's
that.
exactly right.
So losing isn't so bad, I guess. I mean,
It didn't bother him.
No, you still get to say.
I was worried, but it didn't bother him a bit.
Exactly. I mean, you have people now referring to you as the Hugo nominee, which is would still carry some honor with it, if not the prize. You're one of the few authors. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Haven't been nominated in many years, I think.
I think it's getting tougher. I don't see as many authors. I don't personally encounter as many authors who are nominated. So it must be getting a lot tougher to get in. I don't know. Which is, good, I guess. I mean, that means there's a lot of new authors out there. So you mentioned, so when it comes to like craft, I'm always curious how authors either stumble in or intentionally walk into the craft and the work. What made you decide that you were, good enough to do this, and then how did you become good enough to be, Hugo and nominee and then winner?
I guess I just decided that my daydreams were coming up story shaped, and I should try it.
Yeah.
And I not only tried, I tried the obvious thing, but I had to be told to do it.
Yeah.
Magazines have an editorial address on the inside front cover.
Mm-hmm.
You send your story there, and it goes over the transom, and maybe somebody reads it.
Okay. So you got your start in short stories then?
Yeah.
A lot of authors do, which is cool.
I generally advise people to start with short stories.
Really? Why is that?
You can make your mistakes faster.
Okay.
You don't want to blow 3 years on a novel that isn't working.
That's true. Yeah.
You want to blow a couple of months or just a week on a short story, and send out 1,000 of those. See what sells.
That's I found the whole process so disheartening when I first started. Because you get plenty of rejection letters, and I kept at it, but still.
The advice I was getting came from the famous writers' school, which was a correspondence course,
mm-hmm.
and I took 2/3 of that until I was selling regularly.
Yeah.
And then quit in the middle of characterization.
Does that? So you quit in the middle of characterization, but your characters are well developed, so you must have had a natural ability to that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. How much do you think is natural ability, and how much is cultivated skill?
Hard to tell the difference. I've been teaching myself, but of course, there are a lot of writers out there who want to tell you how they write.
Yeah.
We find our own work fascinating. Why not? We'd better.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody's going to enjoy reading us, it should be us, I guess.
You betcha. My imaginary reader is Larry Niven, except he needs things explained to him in more detail.
That's an interesting statement, by the way, because you do hear that advice all the time, to find like an ideal reader and write to that person. So your ideal reader is you.
Yes.
That's and it seems to be working for you, so who could argue, really?
I was lucky.
Yeah. That's the way I feel too, though. I write for myself. I mean, I have a vague sort of ideal reader out there, but it's really just me. I mean, maybe sometimes wearing a dress or something. But so you're okay. So you are your ideal reader. You are you did take some training, but mostly this is just coming straight from you, right? You worked hard, but you did it over the course of a career, not.
But also these years I mostly collaborate.
Yeah.
So again, I'm out to entertain and impress my collaborators.
Yeah, there you go. That's having a built-in audience. So as long as they align with someone who will actually pay to read the book, I guess that works out pretty good. So I'm still pretty impressed by that, because do you write solo anymore? I mean, have you published anything solo for a while?
as I say, I've done a short story
Yeah.
involving Pluto.
Right.
That's waiting.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was one before that. I've kept up short stories,
Yeah.
just not very often.
Yeah. What takes more work? I mean, I know in length and time, it probably takes more work to do a novel, but do you
Yes, it does. It's also more rewarding,
Yeah. Yeah.
at
Bigger
least in
payoff.
terms of money
Well,
or
that's true.
success.
Yeah.
But a short story it's not obvious, but if you do a short story right, you sell it over and over again.
Yeah. I haven't tried that really. Usually
Well-
if I sell it once, then I'll publish it some other means later, but I don't really do the whole sell it over and over again because I'm never
Eventually, you've got enough short stories to form a volume,
Yeah.
and then you need a publisher to be persuaded that they're good enough,
Right.
which is why you write so carefully the first time.
Now how did you come to your publisher? I mean, how did you break in?
Let's see. I wrote a novella.
Okay.
I wrote a short novel for sale and sent it to Frederick Pohl,
Uh-huh.
and he ran it down the street to Ballantine Books and suggested to Betty Ballantine that it could be expanded into a novel, and that was my first novel.
Very good. I love
Beyond
hearing
that, I worked a lot with Ballantine Books,
Yeah.
and later they became Del Rey.
Right.
And I'd been working with what the heck is her name now? It became Del Rey, but it was I'm blanking on a name.
That's fine.
She was a dwarf.
I'm also
Judy Lynn
blanking.
Del Rey.
Yes.
It used to be Judy Lynn Benjamin. She's deceased now.
Yeah.
And she was a good friend, and she took over a lot of the work for Del Rey Books.
Yeah.
It was named for them both.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, most of the people I deal with now, it's all about sort of indie and self-publishing, So I talk to authors who are traditionally published frequently, but it's always interesting to talk to you guys because it's a different perspective on the industry, and it tends to go a little deeper and a little further back. And the names of these publishers, the people involved in it. And to us, it's always just been Del Rey, or it's been Ballantine, or it's been we don't know the faces behind the names. So that's fascinating.
Well, I got to know the faces after they were involved with me.
Yeah.
Tom Doherty.
Yeah.
He was involved with Ringworld, and I didn't know it.
Oh, really?
And Robert Gleason,
Yeah.
the editor.
Yeah.
They've been heavily involved in my career.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. It makes me want to go out and meet. Actually, that's part of why I do this podcast, is so I can meet more people behind the scenes that, you may not always know. So
that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll do good things for you.
I think so. It's already done a lot for me. I've had a lot of opportunities come out of this. So here's something I'm always curious about, because I know my writing habits. I know the writing habits of my partners and friends. But I'm curious. Do you write every day, or do you have any sort of schedule for what you do, or do you just kind of come to it when you come to it?
I'm at my computer every day, but some days it's only email. I get a lot of email that has to be erased or answered.
Yeah. Do you answer every email?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to let that stand. I try to answer every email, but no, it's getting out of hand.
I answer every email if it gets my attention.
Yeah. All right. So what gets, and now the people who write you, are they mostly fans, readers, or is it other people?
Yes, fans, some professionals.
Yeah.
I don't keep my email address a secret.
Yeah. Yeah, so you probably do get a lot. Do you get a lot of people trying to co-author with you?
Yeah, I've had that offer from time to time.
Yeah.
One of my co-authors sold a few stories to the Manxin Wars, and then suggesting writing together.
Yeah.
And I did what I did with Stephen Barnes. I sent him a partly finished novelette.
Right.
And he turned it into a novel.
So
and he did it in one spurt.
Really?
Yeah.
So now I'm curious, because you hand them this partially finished novelette and you just let them run with it? They can finish it any way they like, or
that was not my intention. I was intending to work with him.
Yeah.
But he just blitzed it.
Yeah. I have to tell you, if I were to be handed something like that, my tendency would be, to get excited about the story and then want to finish it. So. His
first name's Matthew, and I'm blanking on the rest of it.
He'll be known soon enough.
3 names.
Yeah, he'll be famous soon enough.
Anyway, the book was the Goliath Stone.
Okay. I'm going to keep an eye out for that, because now I want to see. I want to see how he did for you.
It's a wonderful wish fulfillment novel.
Yeah.
And I had done a lot of work on it, but most of the text is his. He just blitzed.
So that brings up a question: Do you outline, or are you just sort of a discovery writer?
Yeah, I outlined it to death.
Really?
I outlined to death. Particularly with collaborations, you have to know that you're both moving in the same direction.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He followed my outline up to a point.
Yeah.
But not quite.
Yeah. Is it okay to sort of diverge from the outline, or do you consider that sacrosanct?
It's okay if you can make it work.
Okay.
Decisions are made on an individual basis.
Yeah. I'm not much for outline, but I do have to do it when I write with partners, and it's a little chafing for me. But
you certainly do.
Yeah.
You have to talk it to death too.
Yeah.
You've got to know you're moving in the same direction.
Yeah. I've seen things go sideways, so I'm with you. Okay, so I'm really sad now because we're at the time I told you I would wrap up. So I want to respect your time and let you get back to your regularly scheduled life and everything. But I have to tell you how honored I am just to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you very much, sir. And everyone else, stay tuned after the break, and we'll have a quick wrap-up. And that was my interview with Larry Niven, sci-fi legend Larry Niven. I am so humbled by the fact that I even got a chance to talk to this guy. This is somebody, when I was a kid, I kept getting, I was always exposed to this guy's work. And a lot of authors. I mean, you grow up I grew up in Wild Peach, Texas. Shout out. And, there weren't many things to do. I mean, if you couldn't get to it on your bike, you couldn't do it at all. And there wasn't much to get to on your bike. So what I ended up spending a lot of time doing was reading. And I'm very grateful for that because it shaped a lot of my upbringing. And, I was fascinated with science fiction. Now, I read a lot. I have a much broader palette these days. But, I mean, science fiction was sort of my first love. And that was sort of the first work that I wrote was all science fiction. It was all in homage or in imitation of guys like Larry Niven, Orson Scott Card, David Brin. These guys who were out there doing, something pretty remarkable in my eyes. And I never in a million years even suspected that I would get a chance to talk to these guys, to talk to any of these people. And, so far on this show, I've gotten to talk to folks like Andy Weir, author of The Martian. I've talked to Jonathan Mayberry, who has written for Marvel Comics and done a lot of other work that I really love. And now, having talked with Larry Niven, I'm just humbled by the whole experience. And good news, I've got more of these kind of interviews coming up in the future. Not necessarily the near future, because some of these folks are a little, their schedules are busy. We'll just put it that way. So I'm lining up more of these because I thought, I have to talk to these people if I can. I have to. I have to leverage what this show has created for me, the opportunity this show has created for me. And I have to do that for me. But then it occurred to me that I have to do that for you as well. Because if you're an author, by the way, listening to this show, it's not rare to get interviews with guys, to hear interviews with guys like Larry Niven. That's not the rare part. I try to do things a little different than most shows, I'm trying to get questions in there that aren't the common everyday questions you hear from everyone. I want to have a conversation. I want to have a relationship with this person. So I'm hoping I'm offering something unique there. Anyway, all that aside, a fantastic author, a legend in the field, a multiple Hugo and Nebula Award winner. That's just something unheard of, especially today. It's very difficult to do that today. So I'm very proud, I'm very humbled, I'm very honored to have offered this interview with Larry Niven. So thanks so much for tuning in for it and being a part of it. More to come. I've got some other celebrity authors lined up, and I'm really looking forward to talking to them. I can't wait, actually. And I've got some feelers out for a few more, some in particular that I would be just incredibly honored to talk to, because of their influence on my work and my career. I'm really enjoying this. This has been, there's been a turning point somehow in my life where all these weird and cool things are starting to happen. Just an update on the RV. We finally got the RV back from maintenance yesterday. They did not fix everything they were supposed to fix, but we're kind of getting close to the wire. It is September 16th as I record this, and as you're listening to it, and we're actually moving into the RV toward the end of this month, full time. There may be a slight layover, but we're there. We're in it. I mean, this is it. So the things that they didn't fix, I've now got to go figure out how to fix. And that's a little annoying considering how much money it cost, how much time it spent at Camping World in Katy, Texas, by the way. So just a warning. Camping World and Holiday World, both in Katy, Texas, both right next door to each other. And I wouldn't trust either one of them to do anything for you. I'm just going to put that out there. And I'm sorry to say, because I like the concept of Camping World in general, just because of its, it's available nationally. It's a chain with a decent enough reputation on at least the retail side. But this particular one, I'll just say, this is the only one I've tried. So I'm not going to disparage the entire company based on this one outlet, and they were kind, they were nice, but they gave us no quarter when it came to they didn't offer anything when they kept the RV for 3 solid months, barely ever reporting anything to us. I would call and never get a response, rarely got callbacks. I only got maybe 3 calls back in the entire 3 months that it was there. Anyway, I don't want to turn this into a big complaint about RV maintenance, but I will say that I won't trust the big chains anymore. I'm going to have to go with smaller local guys for anything I need, and I'm just going to have to use my handyman skills and fix everything myself. I'm pretty handy. I can do that. Anyway, that's my complaint. That's my gripe for the day. And that's it. I'm no longer allowed any more complaints for the rest of the day. 24-hour moratorium. Thanks so much for tuning in. You did not tune in for the RV talk. I just wanted to update you on where that's at. We're almost in. Now that we have it back, we're taking some measurements on some things. We're going to replace some furniture. We're going to do a few adjustments here and there. We took Minnie to check out the RV yesterday. She was pretty okay with it. She rode with me as I brought it back from Camping World into our temporary RV storage, and she was, calm and quiet and laid her little bag carrier. Wasn't real thrilled about being locked in there the whole time, but I didn't feel comfortable just letting her roam. And it all worked out pretty well. We took measurements for some of the furniture we're replacing. We've got plans to put some nice mobile recliners in instead of the fold-out sofa that's in the front of it. But, little things. And we're making it home. So, anyway, going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks so much for tuning in for this very special episode. I hope you liked this. If you did, let me know. I would love to hear what you thought of this interview with Larry Niven, and maybe some suggestions on other folks that you would like to hear me interview. And I promise I'm trying to get some pretty well-known names, and I'm making some actual headway. Turns out you guys have helped turn this show into something that's fairly useful for this kind of thing. So thank you for that. Anyway, thanks so much. Tune in next week. We'll have another great interview. I've already got one lined up. I will be at NINC next week. The 19th, I'll be in St. Petersburg Beach, Florida, from September 19th through the 26th, I believe. And if you happen to be going to Novel Writers Inc., the NINC conference there in Florida, look me up. I'm going to be there representing Draft to Digital. We're chatting with authors. We're chatting with publishers and agents. We're just being a presence there, and it's going to be pretty cool. I think there's a session at some point where we may actually be in the room with folks from Amazon, which, that ought to be interesting, and come just for that, if nothing else. But yeah, come check us out, and I would love to meet and greet with you, bump elbows, and give some handshakes and hugs. I would love to see you there. So if you're going to be there, drop in. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the week. Thank you so much. Have a great and safe weekend ahead. Have a safe week ahead. Depending on when you're listening to this, just be safe all around. And take care of yourselves. And tune in again for more great interviews with fantastic guests on the Wordslinger podcast. And don't forget to go to iTunes and rate and rank us. Help us get a little bump there, so we can get back into that new and notable section. I never did make that, actually. I didn't come in with a strategy for that when I first started the show, but still, it's not too late. It's new and noteworthy, right? So if I can be noteworthy, I can still get in. So help me do that. All right. Thanks so much. Go check everything Wordslinger out at wordslingerpodcast.com, where you can actually leave me voicemails right from the site. You can send me email from the site. You can check out past episodes. And you'll find the nifty phone number on the site if you want to give me a call and you don't have it handy in your head. You can call me at 281-809-WORD. That's 281-809-9673. And leave me a voicemail, which I will play on the air unless you tell me otherwise. And you can ask me anything you like. You can, if you have a question for one of my past guests, I will pass it along and see if I can get you an answer. But otherwise, just say hello, and I appreciate it. So take care of yourselves out there. Thanks so much for being a part of this, and I will see you next time.
Wordslinger.